I don't know if he could hear us, but I said hi anyways.
How's everyone doing? Are we having a good time? Chat in the box below and tell us how your trick or treat season went. How did trick or treat for UNICEF go? What about you guys? Do you guys want to share your trick or treating experience? Caitlin?
Yeah, ours went really well. We did a new thing where we went to dorms and different apartment halls around college campus and trick-or-treated there. So it was warmer and we raised a lot of money.
That's good. Ours, it started raining. So we had a fun, interesting trick or treat experience where we would drive around and then we were like trick or treating around. So in our communities, and we were in the rain. So it was interesting. It was a different trick or treat experience than before. And I'm seeing people getting on.
Can I also say how amazing? See, my trick or treat experience was literally just watching all of you on Instagram, and it was really, really fun. And everyone did a ton of cool things. Also, I feel like everyone upped their photo games this year because they were incredible. Like, I
The
don't know
photos
if
this
it's
year,
like portrait mode or what, but
I know the photos this year. I love scrolling through all the Instagrams and all my like fellow club areas, looking at all those photos. They were so cute. And all okay, and Instagram stories, my favorite thing. Boomerang, love it. What
they're
about you, Omar? How was your trick or treat experience this year?
My trick or treat experience was fantastic. I had a midterm the next day, so it wasn't that great, but it went well. It was cool to see what everyone was doing.
That's good. Okay, guys, comment in in the chat box below. Tell us how your trick or treat experience is. We have people from New Jersey and from California. Tell us how it was in New Jersey and California because it was raining in Texas. So we want to know how was it sunny? Was it windy? Tell us the weather conditions. We just want to know. We want to know it all. What other fundraisers did you guys see happening around your area other than, the traditional trick or treat, door to door? Were there any cool fundraisers that you guys saw? Caitlin, you want to go ahead and go first?
I saw sports teams. I mean, this is still trick or treat, but I saw sports teams doing trick or treat, which is really cool, which is like a really fun way for like, it's like they did it as team bonding, but then it was for you and stuff. So I was like, yeah.
That's cool. What about you, Morgan?
I think like some of the cool things here in New York, it was fun because the Allison family who like helped start Trick or Treat, they're here in New York, so they were able to kind of do some stuff with the clubs. They host like some fun tabling activities. But I have to say, some of my favorite on Instagram, I saw clubs doing like monster mashes. Like I think Lauren did one. Councilmember Lauren did one. I saw like a school here in New York did a really fun like spooky Halloween fall fest. Like I like those. I saw a lot of fall cider and donuts.
Ooh,
Popular, which I'm all about.
yeah. What about you, Omar?
Yeah, you guys covered all the bases. I really liked I did see the monster bashes, which I thought was really creative. And there actually was something that I saw of like a huge trick or treat box in New York, and I thought that was really cool. Wish I saw it. But, yeah.
Well, that's really, really cool. Okay, we have some people who chatted in. Let's see. Jillian said at her school they did a competition with two other clubs, Key Clubs and Acts of Random Kindness Club, and they raised more than $320. And they're rewarding the club who raised the most money. And also, any person from each club who raised the most will be getting a lunch on us. Wow, that's a cool thing. Chick-fil-A, Chipotle, anything. That's really, really cool. Also, Jessica said that they teamed up with Key Club and the Kiwis Club at their school. So a lot of in her club, Kiwins. Caitlin, you want to help me out?
Kiwanis Club.
Yeah, the Kiwanis Club. they did a lot of inner club trick-or-treating. That's really, really cool. And also Lorenzo handed out donation boxes at their school. And this year, when they handed out candy this year, they actually saw a few of those boxes come to their door. So that's really, really cool. Okay, our next question to everyone is, so this Leadership Symposium is all about resume building. So we just want to know, what organizations and work experience do you guys have outside of UNICEF that could be included on your resume? Since we are talking about resumes this time. Caitlin, do you want to answer that now?
Yeah, I always try to include whatever you have like a leadership position in. I know even with soccer, I play soccer, and team captain. I like to put on my resume. It's a good one.
Oh, I totally agree. Same thing with me. For leadership experiences, I like to put that all my leadership experiences, other than UNICEF, I am the debate captain of my team. So I like to put that on. It's because, hey, it's another leadership experience. And I'm seeing a lot of more people joining in. Welcome, guys. We're glad you're here. Right now, we're just doing icebreakers. Go ahead and comment below what other organizations that you guys are a part of that you could maybe perhaps include in your resume. And yeah, Caitlin, what other stuff do you like to include?
Work experience is always great. Anything that you do with your professors, it's awesome to include. So I do research with a professor, and it's always good to include, because then you have work experience, but then also a reference for people to go to. I've had different careers or job opportunities contact that professor that I work with, and it just helps for him to be able to communicate what I do in addition to what I put on my resume.
Yeah, same, except I don't have research experience because I'm a high schooler. So what I do instead is I put whatever interesting projects I've worked on, or even any other extracurriculars that I'm a part of, because as high schoolers, we're part of different things. So for example, I do dance. So I put that on my resume since I've been doing that since I was 6 years old. So I put that on my resume since we've made it to a level where I'm at a higher level. So I like to talk about that in the performances I've been on. The extracurriculars for high schoolers are a great way to showcase how you are a very different sort of person, and you can showcase your personality through that as well. And we have some people commenting in the box of what in the chat box of what they're doing. Valentina said that she's a ninth grade class president and the club representative of Key Club. And Lorenzo talks about how he's a club council leader of another club called Interact, which is another community service club. That's really, really cool. Caitlin, do you have anything to add on to that?
Yeah, those are all awesome. Really, anything like work experience, any affiliations with clubs are just great things to show how well-rounded you are as a person. Really, it's not limited to one thing or another. Sports, club activities, jobs, anything you can include to showcase your personality and various skills.
Yeah, totally. Some people even added on that Riley, in fact, said she works at a restaurant and she's also part of a cultural exchange program. Those are really unique things to add to your resume. And Neil says he is a 9 clubs officer, 4, and he's a class president. So these are amazing things to add to your resume and make sure that to highlight on your resume. And I see more people joining in, so welcome. We're just doing icebreakers right now. And we just wanted to know now, where are you guys submitting your resumes next? Is there a college that's coming that you're applying to soon, or even a job? Comment in the chat box below where are you submitting your resume and what places that you want to see your resume be shown at. So, Caitlin, do you have any place that you're submitting your resume soon?
Yeah, a bunch actually, because trying to get a job over the summer, trying to get an internship position, hopefully with an engineering company. So I am sending my resume left and right to as many people as I can, trying to get those contacts in, trying to get as many corporations to see my resume as possible.
Yeah, that's really, really cool. Diana actually said that she's submitting some colleges on the Common App, which is true. Some colleges do require it on the Common App. I'm applying to colleges right now. In fact, I'm applying to UT. So they require an extended resume, which is interesting because it's 3 pages instead of 1. So that's been a fun fun endeavor for me. I've been submitting that. Rachel said that she is doing a cool internship over the summer. That's really cool. And she's definitely added her resume for that. Some other places where people have worked at that they're planning to add to the resume. Alice said that she's the president of NHS, and she has volunteered at UCLA's Neuroscience and Genetics Research Lab. That's really, really cool, Alice. And who else said? Diana said that she's actually added some of her work that she's done at the high school exchange program. And I see a lot of people saying college apps, college apps, college apps. Riley especially emphasized that. And don't know the name, but it's MS004 Value. She's applied for her city's youth advisory board, so she sent her resume for that, and she's looking for some colleges and jobs where they require resumes. Pretty cool. So that kind of segues into our whole session, the resume building session. Caitlin, you want to take over?
Yeah, so we have an awesome guest. He's a National Council member, Omar, and he just applied to colleges. He's in college now, and he's just going to talk about his experience applying to college applications, how he applied Unicef onto his application, and what other great advice you have to offer us. Omar, you can go ahead.
Yeah, of course. Thanks, Ria and Caitlin. So I'm super excited to be here with you all today. Like Ria and Caitlin said, I just started college, and my name is Omar, and I'm a freshman studying human biology and global health at the University of Southern California in Los Angeles. And I've had the privilege of working on the Unicef USA National Council for the past 2 years now, working with amazing club leaders like you all across the country. And last year, I actually hosted the Leadership Symposium like Ria and Caitlin do now. So it's a super unique experience to be back with you all. And this year, I've had the pleasure of serving on our retention team, which helps ensure that our club programs are returning each and every year, essentially fostering lifelong supporters of Unicef USA, all meanwhile ensuring that our clubs have the resources they need to have a successful year. So with that said, having been involved with my Unicef club all 4 years of high school, alongside the National Council through my freshman year of college, UNICEF has played an integral role into getting me where I am today, shaping me as a global citizen. So I know, like we said, now might be a stressful time with college application deadlines coming up, and our National Council application launching this week. So having gone through the experience just about a year ago, I'd love to share with you all how UNICEF helped shape my application. Now, with UNICEF being one of the largest humanitarian organizations across the world, almost any work you do with the organization is going to be well known to admission officers or employers, but you do want to make sure that you touch base about what our work is, but moreover, focus on the role that UNICEF has played in your life, and really encapsulate what Children First means to you and the action you've carried out as a youth leader to ensure that a future is created in which we can truly fulfill that mission of UNICEF. So on my resume, having both been a UNICEF USA National Council member and a club leader, the experience was super diverse. So really encapsulating such a grand experience was something I kind of struggled with at first. But I think it's important to remember that no matter what capacity you're involved with UNICEF, and whether that's as a National Council member, a youth representative, club president, or even just a member, your title is not at all what distinguishes you when you're applying yourself to like these professional experiences. So each and every one of you has played an integral role in building this movement across the United States to support one of the world's largest children's organizations. So with that said, it's important to really bring to life what you've made of that experience. So one of the main challenges that I face, and I think most students face, is condensing such a grand experience with UNICEF clubs into such limited verbiage. Like with the Common App, I know some of you talked about extended resumes, which is perfect. But when you're describing your activities, something I had was you're limited to 50 characters when describing a leadership position, which is significantly less than like a tweet in itself. So really encapsulating what being a UNICEF club member means into 50 characters was something that I really struggled with. So now it really just comes down to what you bring to the table and clearly identifying the action you've taken and what you've had to offer, fitting into your bigger personal brand. So for me, seeing myself throughout high school as a grassroots leader to work with Unicef's mission, I really emphasized how I served as the boots on the ground in the United States for children worldwide. And as UNICEF Unite members and club leaders from all across the country, we all share this common cause. So with that said, it's important never to lose sight of the bigger picture of why UNICEF for you, all meanwhile identifying exactly what you bring to the table. So a good approach I took personally that worked for me to structure 4 years of leadership experience into 50 characters was to branch out from the 4 pillars of the program, starting off simple. So community building, advocate, fundraise, and speaking out in support of UNICEF's work. So what worked best for me was branching out with action items from each pillar of UNICEF's work. So really quantifying the action you've taken and how you've helped to support this bigger cause. So have you fundraised? Have you hosted events? Have you recruited people? Did you participate in advocacy day or any congressional meetings? So how I encapsulated that was, aside from defining how long I was involved and my position, I talked about what I did within each of those pillars. So for community building, I talked about how my high school, and as president, I helped organize and carry out 5 education tabling events, engaging the community on the migrant crisis. So focusing on something that really hones down on the action you've taken and the skills you've gained from this experience. In addition to that, with community building, I talked about how we mentored elementary school students with Kid Power, fostering a relationship in which their everyday activity was connected to a real world impact. And it doesn't necessarily have to be listing everything you've done within community building, but what you're most passionate about and what you've gained the most from. So really quantifying what you've done. With advocating, I talked about how we executed a telethon for World Children's Day to congressional members executing calls to ensure U.S. appropriations for UNICEF USA. And we talked about how with community building, we recruited 75 new grassroots supporters for UNICEF USA. And lastly, with fundraising, I talked about how we raised $1,500 through collaboration on Trick or Treat for UNICEF with 2 local elementary schools. So really capturing your experience and quantifying it, so you're not just talking about what your role entailed, but the action that you personally executed in that role, and from that, what you bring to the table. So ultimately, there's no right or wrong way to capture your experience, but instead, it all comes down to what UNICEF's mission means to you and how you've taken action in your own community as a leader to be passionate about this organization's cause. And as this time comes around to build out your resumes and college applications and all that good stuff, I think it's important, just don't lose sight of all that you've accomplished already. So with that said, I'd like to open the floor for some questions. So feel free to chat anything and we will go ahead and address those before we move on.
You got a list already.
Fantastic.
First question from Diana. Would you include any of the awards you have earned in high school on your college resume?
I would. I think personally, whether it's outside of UNICEF or within UNICEF, awards kind of show what you've accomplished, and it distinguishes you from other students and your peers that are applying to the same opportunities. So I'd say it's important to include your achievements within that spectrum. Definitely.
Okay, you have another question from Alice. She asked, did you write about UNICEF in your personal statements for college apps, or did you just mention it as leadership experience?
So I did both. So my Common App personal statement was about how my background has shaped me into a global citizen. So I did mention how UNICEF played an integral role in doing so. But I think it really comes down, if you're talking about something that relates to UNICEF in your personal statement, I think it's great to fit it in, but don't feel obligated to. I think that your passion shows elsewhere.
Okay. Rachel asked, currently my resume is exactly 2 whole pages. It describes everything that is important to me, but should I bring it down to 1 page?
So that's a great question. I actually dealt with the same conflict, but Morgan is actually going to segue into what an employer looks at resumes. So I think that's a great question for Morgan to answer when we get there. So, yeah.
Okay, here's another question for you from Valentina. She's currently a freshman in high school, and this is her first year participating in UNICEF. Is there anything I can do regarding colleges apart from participating? Okay, is there anything I can do to participate in several clubs and take leadership roles to showcase the colleges, essentially?
Yeah. So I actually founded my UNICEF club freshman year because that's something I was passionate about, and I think that really shined through when I was moving that experience into my college applications. So I just think if you're passionate about UNICEF, definitely try to get more involved on a grassroots scale within your school and community if you're not already, and just get more involved in things you're passionate on and take it to the next level. I mean, if you're participating as a high school leader and you're a president, move on to become potentially youth representative or a national council and really challenge yourself to move your passion to the next level. I think it's the right thing to give you.
Yeah, and national council applications are out, so totally apply, especially because it's out, and here we are talking about that. Okay, Omar, that's all the questions that we have in the chat box for you. Thank you for
Thank you guys so much.
Thank you for coming and being on and sharing your experience.
And we will address National Council application questions later on. So we will answer those questions for you guys.
Great. So now we're going to go ahead and move on to our next guest speaker, Morgan, who is a Youth Engagement Fellow for UNICEF. Morgan, we're glad to have you here.
Hi, thanks for having me. I'm excited to talk to all of you a bit. All right, so let's jump right on in. So like she said, I'm a Youth Engagement Fellow with UNICEF. So I'm going into my second year here. And so before I did this position, I was actually a UNICEF club leader myself. So I went to Ohio State University, and that's where I first found UNICEF, obviously, and then got really passionate. And I worked for a year after I graduated and then applied to this fellowship position, and now I'm here. That sounds very straightforward. It was not, and the job process was very tricky and hard. So we're gonna touch on a little bit of all of that and how you can really make it the strongest and help you all out, because I know it's a stressful time. Whether you're applying to school or applying to jobs, it's stressful, but we're here to help you. So I want to start off with one of my favorite exercises that I did. Actually, when I was applying to jobs, it took me a very long time, and I got to the point where I was like, I need somebody to help me. And so I luckily had a connection with somebody who does this for a living, who is like a counselor and helps his students get jobs, right? So being in touch with your guidance counselor or any support system whatsoever is fantastic. You can find resume workshops. I still do those to really keep improving on your resume. So this is something that I took from them that I've done, and I think it helped a ton, was really was doing a detailed resume. So what I mean, I'm going to share my screen with you all. So obviously we like to keep our resume short, clean, to the point, right? This exercise was to go ahead and, I'm trying to share my screen, but it's looking a little crazy.
You've shared it. You just need to switch the tab over.
Oh, okay. I'm getting like 10 screens here. Okay.
Why don't you can stop sharing?
Yeah, let's try that.
Yeah.
Stop sharing. Okay. I stopped. Okay. Should I try again?
Now try. Try doing it.
Maybe application window, or do I want entire screen?
Are you showing? Yeah, do an entire screen. So click on the screen. Okay, wait. Unshare that again. Click on the. Okay, let's see. Let me see how to do this.
Are you seeing like 5 different screens? It's giving me boom, boom, boom.
Try sharing it and then clicking on the tab that you have it in.
Wait, what if I do? Hold on. Like. Okay, let's try again, friends. Stick with me. We're going to talk all the good resumes in just a moment. It gives me one. Okay. And I'm at what I want. Great. And then switch over this.
Yay, okay. You did it.
Great. Okay. So we're going to first, are you all able to see my screen right now? Yes. Okay. I'm assuming that's a yes. So what I want to show you is the detailed one. So this is an exercise I would really recommend all of you do first and foremost. So take a step back from your resume. You already have it in bullet points. I'm sure it looks beautiful. But take a step back from it and write down everything you've done in each position that you have. So for example, this is what mine looks like. It literally is about 6 pages long. You're never going to submit this anywhere. This is literally just to help you write down everything you've done. So you can see here, it's everything from when you started working, it's your numbers. How long did you do a program? How long were the lessons? 1-hour lessons? What were they called? Literally any detail you can think of, put it here. And keep going. And so like each of these was about a page. And this is kind of a long thing, but it's a process that will really help you pull the most important things later. So you'll see here, here's my little bit about Unicef. And this was long, right? So this was about a page long here. And literally it's just a narrative. It's a story of saying, here's what I did. This is how large our group was. It was 30 to 40 people. As a president, I led weekly meetings. I created PowerPoints. What else did you do? You probably hosted events. You hosted educational activities, collaborative events. How much did you raise? Put that in there. All of this stuff. So anything you can think of, this detailed resume is where you put it. And so this is just an exercise you do first. I would really recommend you doing this. So it'll help your brain start moving and thinking about, okay, what did I do and how can I now put it on my resume? So from here, take all of this and we've got to fit it onto a page, right? Which seems daunting, but we want to tell a story with our resume. We want to make it flow and we want to make it easy to read. So this is where you start. And then once you go from there, I'll show you the next screen. So then we're going to start to put it into an actual resume format, right? Like what you are all used to. And so this is actually what I was lucky enough to have somebody help me with. And so we pulled from that all of the action items that are so important. So here we go. We've got a lot of information. This is all one page. So we took that 6-page giant resume and fit it all into one, which is insane, right? But we really used all of the pages here. So I've got a little profile summary here. Here's an overview of what I do. This kind of section, I've had people say, yes, that's great. Yes, that's not good. Sometimes we'll see an objective section. I think people differ in whether they'll say that's a good thing or not. So it can be up for interpretation. I'd love to hear other people's opinions as well. I think for me, I'm working on redoing my resume, and that's something I'll probably shorten as well. But then jumping into related experiences, and then these bullet points are literally things that we took straight from my resume. That detailed long thing, we put it into here. So there's a few things I would really recommend you to focus on. Focus on choosing those strong verbs. You've probably heard this before, but those are super important. These words right here at the beginning, this first word. We don't want to just see the same words like, I did this, I led this. Try to vary them up a bit, right? I mean, they're not all going to be, but they're not all the same either. So that's gives it a little more different, and you know what I mean? It's making it give us a little more pizzazz. Use some words that help get your point across, right? And use numbers. Make it as quantitative as you can so that you're able to tell exactly what you did. So here, for nutrition educator, I developed relationships with local schools to reach children living in poverty. I taught children between the ages of 6 and 10. So telling exactly what you did to somebody who has no idea. Giving numbers. How many kids did you help? How many students have you led? How many students are in your club? How many projects have you done? How much money have you raised? Those are all really great things you can share. And make sure that you also share specific topics or specific things. Not everyone, I should say, not everyone knows about Unicef. So sharing things like what you might have talked about. So yes, you have monthly meetings, but what do you talk about? Maybe you talk about human trafficking, Ebola, Syrian refugee crisis. So I named a couple of those that I created PowerPoints and I led conversations and discussions around. Being sure to really clearly share what Unicef is really important, I think, as well. And being able to share those numbers is so important. I also want to stress the importance of using the whole page. So you see here, there's not a lot of white space at the end, which is great because we want to try to get the most out of this page that we can. And that's so important. Now, another big thing I would also recommend is having a resume that has everything that different than the detailed one, having an actual resume, but instead of maybe taking off as you get more experiences, you're probably going to take off certain activities or certain things that maybe don't apply to you anymore. So if you're in college, you might not share with job prospects what you did in high school. So some of those are going to go away, or things that you did in the past start to fall off and they're not as relevant. I wouldn't get rid of those completely. I would totally recommend that you have a resume that is just an evergreen copy of this version of what you've done, which is helpful for you then, so you can look back and later, if you want to use and pick and choose and use different pieces. For different jobs, you're going to want to share different things about what you've done. So if it's a job that is specifically related to nonprofit humanitarian issues, all of this, what I've done is very relevant to nonprofits. If it's a job that is more focused, like, for example, I was a barista in college. It's not totally relevant. I've had a lot of jobs, I'm sure as you all have in high school and college, that maybe don't fit with a job prospect after college. So I've taken those things off, but don't get rid of them completely. Have them somewhere so that if you ever do want to pull that experience up, it's easy, it's there, it's done. So that's really important too. I would recommend I know we've mentioned the 1 page versus 2 pages. I would really recommend 1 page. I know further as you go along in your career, you have more experience to share. And then some people I know do have 2 pages. But at the end of the day, people are really only looking at these in a matter of seconds. There's been research done that shows the amount of time that job hiring recruitment people do, and it's really minimal. It's not a lot because they're looking for and they're scanning your resume for keywords. And so that brings me to another really strong point. We talked a little bit about the verbs, right? And those words that you use at the beginning. I would also really recommend that you read through those job applications that you're looking for, whether it's a job application or maybe it's the college application. Look through that, scan that, highlight keywords that you see in that posting, in the question, try to use those words. I think it's very applicable for job postings because you'll see a really long list of here's what we're looking for, blah, blah, blah. Use those same words. A lot of times, whether it's an actual person looking at your resume, they're going to pinpoint for those keywords that they're thinking of. Or if your resume is first being put through like an online system, there's systems that will go through and just look for their keywords. So a computer is doing that for them, right? And so that really just matches those words together, and then your resume will then be moved on to the next step. So focusing on your word choice is super important, and looking at your job posting or college application, using those words, 100% recommend doing that. I also want to show you, okay, so this is like the nice kind of finished version after I worked on it for a while, right? It didn't always look like that. So I want to give you an example of maybe what, let's see here. The one I'm on right now? Okay, let me minimize this screen. All right, so got a lot of different resumes going. Like I said, doing different resumes for different things is really helpful and really important. And it's going to change, and it's going to be an ongoing process. So this here, you'll see it's a little different. This is what it was before I worked on it a lot more. You'll see all of this white space. That's space that you can use. You can put life sports, intern, Columbus, and the date all on one line. It's doable, I promise. And you can try to use more concrete sentences so that you really get your point across in the most efficient words and the least amount of words and make it all fit on one line. And I would recommend maybe just having about 2 to 3 bullets per, 3 to 4 if it's longer, right? But try to keep it all concise. Try to really make the most of your page. There shouldn't be that much white space over here. I would also really recommend making it as clean and neat as possible, making it flow. I think one of the things that I really like on my newer one, I put in like little lines that separate the page. That's kind of simple and seems small, but it really helps direct your eye to the correct piece and where you want to go. So I think that's really important as well. Let me switch back over here. And so like I said, creating different ones is very important. So this is the one that I worked on initially, but since then I've taken things off of that don't necessarily apply to me anymore. So for example, this is kind of what I got now, and it seems similar, but it's actually a bit different. I've taken off things, and I'm actually about to go back and do some more stuff and do more edits to it. It always changes. So like, I don't know if you can, I don't think you guys can see me because you can only see my screen, but I was holding up currently, I just went to a workshop on resumes, and I promise you it's always a skill that you need, and I would recommend going to some, but I have more edits that I want to do to mine. So for example, I'm applying to a grad school program, and I was told, you know what, grad schools really emphasize volunteer work, so you should flesh out this section a little more. I have more volunteer work, sure, I can add that in, but I don't have it on this one because it wasn't as applicable to the job I was applying to. So I'm going to throw more of that in. I'm going to really bulk up my extracurriculars and add an interest section. Those are really important to grad schools. So those are just a couple of things, really thinking about telling a story in the least amount of words, using numbers, make it quantitative. I think those are some of the most important things I can really stress. And if you haven't already, I would also encourage you all to get on LinkedIn. Hopefully you guys all are. If not, I don't know if that's as much of a high school thing. I'm going to stop sharing my screen. Okay, you can see my lovely face in a second. There I am. So I would also really recommend you to get on LinkedIn if you haven't. That's an area that is only increasing, and recruiters go solely to that to find jobs sometimes. You can say that you're looking for a job, and you'll pop up on recruiters' pages. So it's another really important thing, and I was just learning a lot more about. So now I want to go back and redo my LinkedIn page and make it all it can be and more. I think those are some of the main things. I also want to touch briefly on, I'm going to mention for a second cover letters. I know Caitlin's going to share a little bit more about that, which is awesome. But just like I said, to tailor your resume to different jobs and different things you're applying to, I would also really stress the importance of tailoring your cover letter. When I was applying to jobs after college, I had like 30 to 50 different cover letters. They were all so similar, except maybe the intro paragraph was slightly different, which I think is important because you really need to somehow tie into why you're applying there, why this job. So it's not just like straightforward. It's not just like a general cover letter. You're sharing, why are you interested in this position specifically? What's your connection with it? Do you know anything about this company? So I think that's important as well. And so I wanted to definitely share that. And at the end of the day, with Unicef and sharing your Unicef impact, you all have done so much. And I don't want you to think for a second you shouldn't include it on your resume, because the experiences that you've gained are similar to a lot of jobs. Even though it might look like more just volunteer experience, oh, it was a club. No, you should definitely stress the importance of what you did, the volunteers you manage, phrasing it in ways that are similar to also real world job world is super important. You manage volunteers, you run events, you organize meetings. These are things that are really applicable real world skills that you should say, and you should use those words and be sure that you're using the correct language as well. I think also stressing the importance of organization, how you've all been, I'm sure all of you you're all involved in so many different organizations. So make sure that you share, hey, I handled being a part of this many organizations, and I did it really, really well. And I handled a tough school schedule, and I maintained a great grade. Just making sure that they know what you've all done, I think, is so important as well. Do we want to jump to any questions? I know I talked a lot, but we can end for now. And if people have questions, we can go to that.
I don't know if Caitlin's frozen, so I'm going to go ahead and ask the first question. This question came from Rachel. She says she's a youth rep and was a CAT co-leader. My duties are not different, but were a bit more focused towards high school clubs. Should I break up these two positions? Should I break this two positions into two sections, or should I put it into one?
I think you could put it into one, but make sure you have both of your titles. So maybe you put youth rep, club president as well. I think it could go on the same on that same line. For example, like if you see me here, I was actually just thinking about the same thing. So I have youth engagement fellow, UNICEF USA. You could put it on the same. So for example, that's my work experience. And I was actually just thinking, wait, I should probably put in my volunteer experience because I volunteered with the organization for like 3 or 4 years during college. So for me, that's a little different because it's volunteer versus work. But since it's both maybe in the same category, like it would both maybe fit under your volunteer section, I would put it in, or relevant experience, you could also call it that. Put it on the same line, I think would be great.
That's actually leading into the next question. So Valentina asks, would listing the amount of community hours be a good fact to include in my resume? And a question for me is, where would you include it?
That's a great question. I think so. I think you could honestly include it within a bullet point. Like I have things that say maybe I spent 125 hours working with this organization, right? Or something along the lines of that. I think it doesn't hurt to add that number to give people a sense of, or break it down into weeks. I feel like that is easier to picture. Like I spent 10 to 15 hours a week volunteering for this organization. Or even if it's an about, I would say, hey, I spent about, on average, 5 hours a week working for this, and put it within a bullet of like, I did this, I spent 4 or 5 hours a week executing, planning, doing X, Y, and Z. If that makes sense. I think you can include it in the line.
Yeah, totally. Rosaline asked, should resumes include some incomplete sentences at some points, or is it better to use full sentences?
I would say full sentences. I'm looking at mine briefly, and they're all full sentences, except for example, my education, where it's just like Bachelor of Arts. It's like your degree. But other than that, I think they should be sentences because they're starting with a verb. They're all going to say something like, oversee the execution of blah, blah, blah. Process donations, track donor information, period. So they all are verb, sentence, and period, right? So even if they're short, I think sentences.
Okay, Jessica asks, how should you format your resume?
That's tough. You're going to come across so many different ways to organize it. I've been to many different help desks to help you do your resume. And at the end of the day, it's going to come down to you and what you want and how you like it. I would say make sure that you really keep it clean and you make it succinct. You can kind of see like this is mine. Obviously, it has a lot of doodles on it because I have things I'm going to fix. But having clear sections is something that's super important. When you turn it sideways, you shouldn't have too much white space. You should have your pages going, your sentences going all the way to the end. I think that's super important. How you format it, though, it's largely up to you. But make it clean and nice and neat, easy to read.
This kind of leads into the next question from Rosaline. Should your resume be popping out physically with like unique colors or fonts, or should you just really, or does it depend on like the job that you're applying for or what you're applying for?
Yeah, I would honestly say it definitely depends on the job you're applying to. I think resumes in the marketing world have gotten really cool and creative, and I think people have done amazing things. I mean, we've had national council members in the past who applied. It made sense. They were applying to a content position, and their resume was cool and full of infographics, and we're like, that's really neat. That's really cool. You can do that because the position you're applying to, it makes sense for. I would say that that's not the norm, though. I think it would only really be if you knew that company is very modern, is very young, maybe, and very, I think, creative is the time you would do that. I don't think as much for everyday, like average jobs. I don't know if you would call this an average job, but I think the rest of the world and the job market is not as fun and creative.
Diana asks another kind of formatting question. How would you recommend varying letter size and font type? And what is like the minimum size of font you would use?
I think you can go down to, I think I was told 10 if you want to. I think that gets small, but I think mine might be 11. But I would say don't go smaller than 10. Choose a font that is really easy to read. I like serif fonts for this. I think they're nice. So meaning like, that's the difference between serif and sans serif fonts. But I like a good font. But anyways, just choose a font that is easy to read. You can do something as simple as Times New Roman is fine. I think I used Cambria, which I like. That's also nice. I would use the same, for the most of your resume, I would definitely choose like the same font size for all of that. But for your headers, maybe go a size bigger. And you'll see I also did all caps there, and I centered that to make it easy. But on the side here, I just bolded, the first thing to draw your attention to where it was, other stuff. And then the rest is all the same size. I hope that helps.
Yeah, awesome. Jonathan asked just to confirm for college admission resumes and future work, the length should be 1 to 2 pages, concise and detailed.
Exactly. I would say do what you can to keep it to 1, because I'm betting odds are they probably won't get to the second page. If they do, it probably would be something honestly after the fact. So like they'll look at your resume, briefly skim it. I would recommend keeping it to a page, because by the time they say, yes, I want you, you're probably going to be in an interview phase, or they might get more information from your cover letter. I would say do as much as you can to keep it to 1.
Diana asks, how much spacing would you leave in between lines?
That's a great question. I don't know like the specific that I did on mine, but I would say do the auto, like what it typically gives you, I would say is the set it to the auto paragraph. You know what I mean? But then include like after your section, like here's 1 position, enter, 1 space. Then your next section, space. So I think at times I have 1 space. And in between, even like the big section. So like even between like my big section from here to here, it's just 1 space, like 1 enter, and then the next. And then you'll see like just 1 space. I think my margins they're smaller. I think I went narrow, maybe like 0.5, 0.5. I don't know if that helps.
Great. Valentina asked if we're applying to colleges, is there any specific area such as leadership positions or volunteering that you should elaborate more on?
So you said for applying to what specifically?
Colleges.
Oh, colleges. Honestly, I don't think they're looking for one like specific thing. I think they're looking for, what are you passionate about? What were you involved with the most? What did you spend the most time with? So a lot of you probably have done a lot of different things, which is great. I would go into more detail about the things that you did most, the things that you were really passionate about, the things that maybe tie in a little more to what you want to do career-wise down the line. They're all valid, but pick those ones that you could talk about. If they see it on your resume, expect them to ask a question about it and make sure you have substantial things you can say. So I know we have a lot of questions. Do we want to wrap it up and ask the rest? We can take the rest in Slack, or do we have a couple minutes? What are you two thinking?
I'm thinking we should take the rest of them in Slack and our Facebook group. So if you haven't already, join our Facebook group and join our whole entire Unicef Club's channel, Slack channel, because we have everyone from across the country in one Slack channel. So you can ask your resume questions there, or you can ask it on our Facebook group. So we'll go ahead and take those questions and we'll send it to Morgan and Omar, who can answer them, and then we can share it out to those groups.
Awesome. And I would also, one last thing, if you want to see like more of these videos, we'll have it posted on YouTube. So make sure you go like and subscribe to our channel on YouTube, because we love doing this and we want you all there.
Yes, like and subscribe, join our channel, do everything you can to get in touch with us on social media, because everything we will have is going to be blasted out there. So thank you, Morgan, for joining us today. Thank you for telling us your great tips about resumes. We're going to go ahead and I'm going to pass it back to Caitlin, who's going to give a little bit of brief insight on cover letters before we take a couple of final questions and end this session. Caitlin, back to you.
Great. Awesome. So Morgan touched on a little bit, but when you are applying to jobs or college applications, a lot of organizations require you to have a cover letter. And we're just going to briefly touch on this because it is related to resumes. But some important, really quick tips about cover letters is to make sure you read what the college is asking or what the job position is asking. A lot of cover letters will be like, specifically ask, how do you think your skills or work experience can apply specifically to our corporation or job or college? So just make sure you really look forward. If they're asking you specific questions, you definitely want to answer those. I would say try to keep your cover letter definitely shorter than 1 page. My cover letter is sort of an intro just about me, and then it has a body paragraph about how I would be good for what I'm applying for, and then thank you for looking over my application. You can contact me on this and this, and I would greatly appreciate the opportunity to attend your college or to work for you guys. So I would definitely say the body of it is important, but make sure that you are making sure you don't have any typos, answering questions, reread your resume or cover letter over and over again, have your friends read it over and over again to make sure there's no typos, because I know one thing that a lot of colleges and jobs look for in your cover letter is to make sure that you can write a great paragraph without typos, have great professionalism, get your word across without just summarizing your resume, because they're already going to read your resume. So you want your cover letter to show that you can write a great paragraph, show a little bit of your personality, and definitely get your point across about why you would be great for that college or job. And again, if you have any questions about cover letters, shoot them in our Slack. We'll answer them for you guys. So, Ria, do you want to take over?
Yeah. Okay. So we had some questions about National Council application. And yes, it is open and everyone is eligible to apply, who any club leader in Unicef club leaders, and everyone, we want to see everyone applying with their amazing resume and amazing application. Caitlin, do you want to take over while I find that link to send in to the chat?
Yeah. So again, if you have any questions about National Council applications, definitely shoot them in Slack or our email. We will answer them for you guys. But yeah, and any final questions? Thank you, Morgan and Omar, for the great advice that you guys have provided for us. And make sure you guys are working on your resumes. Use your resources. I know schools have a lot of resources that you can go to. I know my college specifically has a admissions office just for looking at resumes. There's a lot of online resources. I know for my cover letter, I Googled a bunch of cover letters and used bits and pieces that I could reference. There's lots of resume building websites to help you out. And use us. We're great resources too. We can help you with all your questions. And yeah, so thank you guys so much for joining us.
Okay, I'm sending in the National Council application link. Just give me a sec. And okay, we had one question before when we began starting the session. It was about whether seniors in high school and freshmen in college are eligible to apply for the National Council. That was from Rachel. And everyone is welcome to apply. But we do know that freshman year is a big transition period for a lot of people, especially if you're transitioning from high school to college. So we recommend that we recommend that you apply in your sophomore year or later on, but we're open to freshmen, and we want to see all the applications coming in. So let me go ahead and Morgan, do you want to add on to that?
Sorry, I was reading the question at the same time. Adding on to whether high school seniors can, yeah. So ideally, we would really recommend that if you're a high school or if you're a high school senior, going into college, we know it's a huge transition period. So I think, honestly, we recommend that you take the first year to get more acquainted with college. There are going to be so many organizations to get involved with. So we really recommend taking that first year and not being on the council, and instead focusing more on how else you can be involved in being present in your campus. We do have several students who were youth reps this year that are freshmen in college. So I think that's a great opportunity because it's less demanding, I would say, than being on the national council and serving on this role. So I would say I would take the year no and say I'd rather not.
Caitlin, do you want to add on any tips that you suggest for applying to national council, perhaps?
Yeah, definitely use the advice we've given you about editing your resume. Really take the time to answer the questions that are asked, to showcase what you've achieved, your personality. I know personality and what you can bring to the table is a great way to showcase what you could offer to the National Council. So take your time, edit, reread, focus on what they're asking, make sure you answer the questions. And yeah, be yourself on the application.
Okay, well, the National Council application is not sending in the chat box. And Margaret says she gave me a little like, wait, we probably have it. Hold on.
Yeah, wait, I can access it for you in a second. Sorry, 1 second.
See if I can send this way. Nope. If anything, if it doesn't come on the group chat, we can share it in Slack. You guys have the Slack channel in our little box. You can have it on. You can go to our Facebook group. We have one last question. It's a little off topic, but can you summarize the annual summit and what the best part of it is? Yeah, annual summit registration opened up. We're super duper excited. All of us have attended the summit last year. The most beneficial part, I believe, is that all the networking opportunities, the amount of kids that are there, the enthusiasm that we have for Unicef. It's such an invigorating environment. And I think it's amazing because everyone around the country joins and comes in, and we all unite on our whole Unicef experience. And it's a very cool bonding experience. Caitlin, what was the most beneficial part for you?
Most beneficial part was probably how inspiring it was. There was a lot of guest speakers, and you have a lot of ideas. Like when you come back to your club, your school, you come back from this summit with great ideas, new fresh ideas, new vision about how you want to take your club, what you want to do with your club, from all these guest speakers and other club members that are there joining you. So just all the fresh new ideas and how inspiring the whole thing is definitely like the biggest takeaway I had.
For sure. And it was such a fun experience. And you go when going with club members, it's exciting. It's just so invigorating. I love it. Let's see if we can. Okay. Let me see if I can. So let me see if I can send the link again. Kayla, do you want to talk about what was your favorite workshop at the summit?
My favorite workshop, we talked about how we can use our resources. So it was great because we were like a relatively new club at my college, so I didn't know too much about like fellowships and all of our youth reps and our leaders and the website and how amazing it is and how awesome their resources are. So there's definitely that was a great workshop for me because I was like, wow, look at all these things that we can do to make our club better and to make yourself as a member better. So that was really great for me, was using that.
My favorite thing was the speaker events. I remember Halima came last year, and that was pretty cool. And then Carol Stern talked, so that was cool as well. All the leaders speaking and all the people speaking about how they got involved with UNICEF. That was so cool. Let me see. I think I got It's not sending. Okay, so the National Council link is not sending the application link, but our link is blasted on. If you go to our club, if I go to our website, you can see it. If you click on our resources and scroll down under leadership development, you'll be able to find our application link, and we'll also be sending it on Slack as well as we'll have it on the Facebook group. So if you are here today and you see if you see our link, you can click on our link for Slack to join our Slack channel, and you can also request to join our group. I've posted right now our link for our website. If you click on that, you scroll down. I'll show it to you how to access let me share my screen. I'm going to show it to you guys how to access the National Council application this way. Can you guys see it? Caitlin, can you see it?
Yep.
Okay, great. So scroll down to Club Resources. Go to Club Resources. And when it loads, you'll see this, and you'll keep scrolling, and you'll see Leadership Development. This is where we have so you can sign up for our Leadership Symposium so that we have your link so that we can get access to access you to the Facebook group. But here is where our summit registration is, and let me see. Hold on. Hold on. I just saw it. Okay. Well, go ahead and click on this, and go ahead and click on this and sign up for our Leadership Symposium. We'll get to a Google form, and over here we'll be able to, when you put your email address and everything and you join our Facebook group, we'll be able to get a request for you to, you'll be able to find you can get our information on the Leadership Symposium and actually get more links and all that stuff, so that when you request to join our Facebook group, which looks like this, we'll be able to accept your Facebook invitation, and we'll be able to post the Leadership Symposium things there. Also, I'm going to show you how the National Council application looks like. So here it is. So if you see my screen right here, this is the link. So if you guys can take a screenshot of it, or maybe take a picture on your phone, this is how you can access the link if you can access the Slack channel. So here's this. I wasn't able to send this in, but totally come apply. This is the application over here, and just apply. You never know what you can get. So totally suggest it. It's we ask that you submit a resume with it and just fill out this application. So yeah, I'm gonna stop this. Great. Thanks everyone for coming. Sorry we couldn't get the National Council application link in the chat box, but if you join our Slack channel, if you join our Facebook group, you'll be able to access it, and we'll be able to make sure that you redirect you. And also email us at council@unicef, council@unicef.org, so that we can redirect you if you have any help. You can contact us on Instagram. Follow us on Instagram at Unicef Clubs. DM us. We'll hit you up there with the National Council application.
And guess what? It's linked out on Instagram. If you go to our Instagram link in bio, click on it, and then click on the photo of a National Council and click it, it's there. So
we have it everywhere. We'll send it to you. If you can't actually hear it, we'll send it to you. We got you. Okay. Thank you everyone for coming.
Thank you so much.
Any questions that you have, again, we'll be putting it on Slack. So subscribe, comment below some of your favorite moments of today. And we can't wait to see you guys next time. Bye.
Bye. Thank you.
bye.